And our next reader is Emma Bolden. We're welcoming her back to South Florida Poetry Journal. She's the author of a memoir, The Tiger and the Cage, just published by Soft Skull. And she has 3 poetry collections. House Is An Enigma, published by Southeast Missouri State University Press. Meditations by Noctuary Press, and Malefici. I hope I said that right. When you Google that word, your book comes up. It's so amazing. Yes. By Gen Pop Books. And she's the recipient of a creative writing fellowship from the NEA, a literary arts fellowship from the Alabama State Council on the Arts. And her work has appeared in the Norton Introduction to Literature, the Best American Poetry, Poetry Daily, Verse Daily, all the important places, and such journals as Plowshares, the Gettysburg Review, Pleiades, Prairie Schooner, the Bennington Review, and Shenandoah. She currently serves as an editor of Screen Door Review. So welcome back, Emma. We can't wait to hear your new work.
Thank you so much, Judy. I really appreciate it. And I always loved this reading series and everything that you do, and that the South Florida Poetry Journal does. So thank you. Hi, Michael. Thank you too. Dwayne, that was absolutely gorgeous. It was such a beautiful reading. I lived in Mississippi for about a year, and I did. And you captured the absolute best of it. So that was beautiful. I'm really happy to be here tonight, and I am actually going to start by reading some poems from House Is An Enigma, my latest poetry collection. It had some bad luck and some really good luck lately. The press, Southeast Missouri State University Press, unfortunately closed down, but then I had the very good luck of Bull City Press picking it up. So you can now get it from them. And I decided that just in celebration of the good luck that I've had, I'm going to read some poems that I don't typically read from this book. The first poem that I'm going to read is about the kind of advice that sometimes I feel like in poetry workshops you get some advice that is great, and then some advice that's not so great. And this poem is about some advice that was not so great, and it's actually the title of the poem. I was told not to write about the body. I was told not to give the body a name, so I let it walk aimless and alien. I was told not to think of the body, and so I made the body into a night. I was told to be more positive. I was told that I was always the one in charge of uplifting my own self, and so I uplifted my skirts until I could see my body walking both into and out of the night. I was told I would be charged. I was told to see the body as a light, so I made it a sky. I gave it a sack full of stars. I slept in its lax. I asked it to be, asked it to stay, asked God in every name I knew to let my body and me be. I was not an answer. I was not an answer. I was told I shouldn't write about the body or the deaths that grayly hung by claw and upside down inside, and so I made the body a clearing and the deer who stood inside. I made the body a deer's mouth. I tasted the leaf greenly chewed inside. I felt the velvet of its nose and ears and cheeks, and I felt the cold intrusion of bullet, the raw shock and silence of the rifle, of the stop, of the story I was not supposed to give to the body I was not supposed to name. Um, so I've never been very good about following rules, especially when it comes to writing. So like this whole book's about the body. So what can I say? So I'm going to read another poem that's about the body now. The first time after surgery. He wanted to see the scar. Of course, there was a night before. Satay and sake, cigarettes and Moscato. Enough cliches to move my hand to the light switch, my lips to explain why I needed the dark, and then kiss the dark parts of him. In the next day's light, he thumbed down the waist of my jeans, then the length of the scar over what had been my body split. A window. Outside, the pear tree bragged about the flowers in its hands. He said I was beautiful. It did not change me or anything. I tried to write as elegant a poem as possible about having a surgical accident. So that was the result. I don't know if it worked, but I tried. Not that any of my poems are elegant, but I can try. I wrote a lot of the poems in this book and in my memoir, The Tiger in the Cage. I have a show and tell thing here, simultaneously. And I did that because my writing in poetry, I have to write it in poetry before I can ever get it down in prose. So this is the poem that led me to be able to write my memoir, which was about having a hysterectomy when I was 33. Hysterectomy, recovery. Though I didn't know how to begin or believe, I held in myself expectation, awareness, a palpable fit. Every garden a window through which I peddled off hopes. There was nothing so alarming as a sky. Who knew if an elegance walked invisible beside me or on stolen feet? Or if all elegance is the act of being invisible after all. If, after all, the spirit is indivisible from the body. Or a glamour slit from the split sack of skin. I have never had nor been enough. Every sundress is an ache. What a pink unpleasantness, the idea of touch. An earth let loose and lost the only record of its revolutions, its unguarded roots. A sky rinsing from itself the pointless trash of spring. One thing I was really bad at for a really long time, and now I think I do too much, is anger and writing angry poems. So this poem is an angry poem, and it came at me in a rush, which is probably the only way that at this time I was able to get it out. I actually wrote this in an airport. The gods have a bullet that whistles your initials as it estimates the circumference of the circle they themselves jewel set between your eyes. The gods chatter, gather their hymns outside the nursery window. They're waiting for the ghost inside you to be born. The gods have plans for the room your body will be once they evict you. They measure from your patella to your ankle, from your left wrist to your right wrist, from the curve of the ear that your mother lullabied to the curve of the lip your lover at first kissed, later bloodied. To the gods, the sweet meat inside of your skull is only meat, and only sweet enough to tempt the vulture's beak and tongue. Once emptied, the overturned bowl of your skull will balance itself beneath the earth, which is patience, which is a God's work, which is knowing the worth of the body is blossom, rot, and bruise, not the person inside who grows hungry enough to believe she is a soul. The gods have a bullet and a beautiful temper and a love as blank as every musk-scented secret growing thick between thigh and mind. The gods have built a bomb that protects the dwelling and shatters the dweller. It's called your body. It ticks. it ticks. The gods don't mind. They are worshippers of waiting, dreaming of the roots that will unlock the ribs caging your one and precious ordinary heart. So the next poem is one of the last poems that's in this book, and it's a poem in which I come to, I think, what's as close to peace as I can over everything. So I don't think there's anything that you need to know. No, besides that. Beyond love. If the saints are to be believed, if this body is a dress we slip into, out of, if each day and night is the mantle we tie around our shoulders, fabric thin as the time it takes teeth to flatten the end of a thread and lead it through an eyed needle, then what am I to make of the gorgeous terror every star makes out of its own distance? Sometimes I can see the body as a blaze, bright gloried, flamed and holy as a pinprick the size of a soul. And if the soul is a blaze to be believed, then belief blazes a highway to some beyond, a beauty that begins with every ordinary sweetness, every one small but still indefinable love. Every morning, when I wash the wrongs I've made right out of my hair, I want to believe in each drop of water as a promise of and from the all that we're meant to contain. And now some new stuff. So I'm going to read a couple of new poems, some of which are really new, some of which are sort of new. The first one was inspired by the fact that I'm completely obsessed with K-dramas. I cannot stop watching them. And in particular, I love a time travel K-drama or just any time travel show, to the point to where I logged into Netflix one time and one of the categories it suggested was like sad international time travel shows or something like that. So I have ruined my algorithm to the point where it's that specific. But I did get this poem out of it. So free will. The television hunk looks a little to the camera's left. I'd never go back in time to change things. Then I wouldn't become the person that I am, he says. What a tub of shit, I say. Outside, the sun aims its gentle spears of light at the blinds. I watch the feathers operating in the capacity of flight on the wings of the sparrow who spent all spring shitting down my chimney. What else? That's nature. Outside, a neighbor sweats. His t-shirt shines wet. He's clipping his glass to 3 perfect inches, and down in the cul-de-sac, someone's dog hollers like he's got something soft up a tree and in his sights. I know how he feels. I can feel the thrill spining through me like the filth a fork must excise from a shrimp's curled pink in order to make it edible, palatable. The television hunk, of course, goes back in time after all and ruins things before he writes them and comes back, of course, to the very same life he's learned to love even more through living a different one. He couldn't help it, like me, like the dog and the squirrel and the neighbor's grass already growing up past his mower's will. The story moves on, and we move along inside it. One of my professors in college, he hated any time that you cussed in a poem, but he especially hated it if you used the word shit because he said there were so many better words. So my apologies for dropping the S-bomb twice in one poem there. And the next poem that I have is actually Tornado Weather, which Dwayne, thank you so much for your really kind, sweet words about this poem. I really, really appreciate it. Yeah, I wanted to read this because we actually just had super tornado weather. Well, I'm like, I can't even remember when it was. It was so chaotic this weekend. So thankfully, no damage here, but unfortunately, 10 minutes away from me is a very different story, which is awful. So, tornado weather. The last high sweat of an August sun wet my sundress. I couldn't believe how fast the urge took me nowhere and no named. I stepped from that bad rust bucket of a car and became a good pack of nothing. Just a bunch of bones roped together under blue and white gingham, under a sky that flashed its grin at me like I was the emergency. That set my teeth on the edge of the hotel sink until morning came, and I still hadn't decided who I wanted to be except gone. A cage is a trap, but a home is worse. Walls papered with all the whatevers I can't stop remembering to forget. I stuck my thumb into the roadside, the air, and when no one stopped, I hitched a ride on my own 2 feet. At least I've managed, kept my weathers quiet in a nowhere only I have mapped, where mind is both shelter and storm. This is a poem that I wrote on election day in 2024. Political science. The weather never changed its clothes. Under the government's umbrella, we marched, protest bright on our tongues like lime. It was a good year for goats and chrysanthemums, for winnowing wheat from chaff, and everywhere sirens lured the landscape to light, red to blue, back to red. My body had little to do with my country, but my country wanted everything to do with my body. A cow lowed as she gave up her milk, and a child poured milk into another child's eyes. The chyrons blinked and blinked again, breaking red as a wound reopened, and the fragrance of emergency followed us home. Pepper and chlorine, Lysol, povidone, iodine. I could not calculate the extent of severance, ever present as the distance between my own 2 feet. Our phones spoke to our back pockets. I heard the fire. Stay safe. I love you. We realized how long ago we should have imagined the unimaginable. The mountain's edge crumbled under the logic of sand. August became August, and then September, October. We prayed to our God that there was such a thing as God. In our homes, we hid away every last thing we could lose, then found we couldn't hide ourselves. And everywhere platitudes turned yellow, then orange, then fell. Whose feet will remain to crush this country's final leaf? Two more. I think, yeah, looks like two more. Okay, two more. I started like a few months ago writing poems that were in conversation with other writers. So this one starts, the title is a line from Annie Ernaux's The Years. Annie Ernaux, she won the Nobel Prize in, oh my God, I forgot the year. I think it was the year before last. Um, but I'm obsessed with her and I cannot stop reading her, and I fully recommend that everybody do the same. She's amazing. As we aged, we ceased to have an age. I own a cabinet's worth of plates, but no seat at the table. In the kitchen, I am as much an appliance as a refrigerator, a stove burning its eyes red. I count the objects in my home as impermanent, and I count my body along with them. My body is a body, yes, but I can't believe in it as mine. And in the same way, I cannot believe in God as mine, and vice versa. My body has lost handfuls of hair, an appendix, teeth permanent and impermanent, collagen, virginity, a reproductive system, the capacity to smile politely past an insult, the ability to urinate efficiently or correctly, the right to abortion and sufficient health care. One day, the body, my body, will be finished. One day I will, for the last time, bellow steam as the shower screams, swallow fiber powder that shouts orange on my tongue, text my mother a question about sifting flour or the Pope's infallibility, tell a doctor I feel great except that I'm dying. I'm not saying the end is an end, but I'm not foolish enough to call it a beginning. Every morning, a different light shivers against my bedroom wall, and only rarely is it beautiful. I tell myself I want to be useful, then wonder what's the use of use. From my left arm, 5 suspicious moles eye me. From my right arm, 3. Mathematics proves nothing but the fact that loss and accumulation exist. Gases gather into a sun and explode. The universe stretches itself so it can find out how it feels to feel nothing. The bees lose their flowers and we lose a world. Somewhere, a flock of geese shudders into the sky. A hunter hurries his gun. I'm not afraid of becoming my parents. I'm afraid of becoming something worse. At all times, I am aware of the configuration of glasses in the dishwasher, of the landscape of skin sliding down my neck. Even on a recording, I will never exactly hear the voice I try to pretend is mine. Last poem, and I wanted to read this one because I feel like it's kind of like the concluding. It's a poem that kind of comes to peace with everything I've been writing about for the past few years. And it was inspired by also along with K-dramas and Annie or No, I'm obsessed with NPR. And I heard the story about Karen Uhlenbeck, who was the first woman to win the Abel Prize, which is basically the Nobel Prize for mathematics. And she does something I don't understand. Which she studies something called gauge theory, which is spatial geometry. That's about fields, like gravitational fields that can't be directly measured, but you can measure what's around them and how they react to other fields. So I don't understand it, but it sounds super cool. And here's the poem that I wrote about it. Gauge theory. On the radio, Karen Uhlenbeck says that the thing she wishes people understood about mathematics is that it is beautiful. When I hear her, I am inside of my body, inside of my car, calculating the miles it will take me to work. In some way, I am always calculating, counting the years through which this body has moved, how they gravel my voice, how it's beautiful, isn't it? To wonder how many more years you'll move through because you will always want more of them. More scratch pollen, more eggplant, more the morning rush hour sheen dimmed. I use my hands to tell the radio to be louder, to tell the car left, left, then right. I want addition. I want. This equation is difficult to describe because beauty should be difficult to describe. Lately, I've had a conversation with myself, which is at its heart about accessibility. Say it plain, I say. Say, in the summer of my 33rd year, a doctor removed from my body the organs that carried my capability to reproduce. Do not say, on that day I both began and ceased to live as the person I knew myself to be. Do not speak about the self in terms of an immeasurable field. Do not speak about knowing in terms of spatial geometry. But the body is an object, even if I deny it. Even if I become very good at denial, it still marks itself with the passage of time and in the same way that a mountain does, doesn't it? Forever an ascent, and then forever a descent. When I say I have opened my eyes and given my attention to the divinity that is darkness, when I say I have moved inside of time and its rooms and found darkness but not divinity, what is it I should try to explain? And why again should I? The body is an object measurable only by its own metaphor, which is time, which we try to pack neatly into the numbered parcels that glow at us from lighted screens. In the office of living, I have found difficulty to be its own divinity, which is the word we use to mean an all we can't express or contain. I move this body through a field and over the unnumbered grasses who know all and nothing of time. How can I tell you? In my 33rd year, I became an answer to all of the questions I began with an if. There is still an everything, the ecstatic bliss of knowing. I will never understand.
Thank you, Emma. That was wonderful. It was wonderful to hear a couple of things I've heard before and all the new stuff. It's just great. So